and Compton was having, but he didn't really get a lot of play time, and he's back. So we'll see. And Danny Isadora, another guy, was a draft choice several years ago. So yeah, I'm concerned about the depth on the offensive line. I think that is an issue.
And can you pick up somebody on waivers at the end of camp who might help you, or is it too hard for an offensive lineman to get integrated into a new system?
Well, I think what they would probably try to do is get someone who knows Dennison's approach and system and that zone blocking scheme, and maybe someone that he was with in Denver or Buffalo or one of his stops along the way, and that could be a possibility that they could go that direction. But I think, first of all, they'd like to have their young guys come through and develop. But it's a good question, and it's definitely an area of concern. The offensive line, obviously, is one of the keys to this team in this season, and we've seen twice in the last 3 years how it has derailed the season.
Right. I'm going to throw an oddball question at you, because we are recording this right before the baseball trading deadline on July 31st, and I asked for questions for you, and Adam Jones threw out this: the Twins are doing nothing, the front office is a joke. I'm just interested in your perspective, because here you have the Twins front office, like 2 off seasons ago, they had a pretty bad off season. Their moves did not work out very well, right? Then this off season, they have such a good off season that they propelled this team into being one of the best teams in baseball, on a pace to set a major league record for home runs, best road record. The new manager they hired is working out well. They have a really good coaching staff. All the players seem to be blossoming, and they're a really good team. And it's almost like they have made the team good enough to put themselves in the crosshairs of fans who always want more. What's it like for a front office person like you when you see that? Yeah, it's amazing. You think about the acquisitions that they've made, the Nelson Cruzes of the world and so forth, and the fact that this team is having such a fantastic season, and yet there are still complaints about not trading for a starting pitcher, whether whoever it was, and Baumgartner, whoever they're talking about, and Syndergaard was the other guy, and you want to give up Byron Buxton for a pitcher that's kind of got a little bit longer in the tooth? I don't know about that either. No, you don't want to do that. No, exactly. And so I can understand and I can empathize with their situation, because it's just the nature of fandom that they're always going to question and always going to want more, and that you look at the team and the pitching staff is a concern, and what's going to happen come playoff time when they run into the Yankees again. And so, but it can be frustrating for a team exec when you think you've done some great work and you still can't please everybody. It just comes with the job description. It absolutely does. So you're writing about the Cowboys this week, and they have Ezekiel Elliott holding out. Prescott's up for a big deal. They spent the money on Cooper, and they're just fighting the salary cap fight, which is how do you have highly paid stars and build around them, and how do you please a running back in a league that doesn't really value running backs anymore, even though this is the one running back that maybe a team should really value. Yeah, it's tough. And in my sportnews.com piece today, I'm talking about the Cowboys, as you said, and just the situation that Jerry and Stephen Jones, the owner, and his son, the executive VP, player personnel director, are looking at, and the fact that they've done some pretty great things in player acquisition the last few years. When you talk about you get a quarterback in Dak Prescott in the 4th round, Elliott in the 1st round, that 2016 draft. 2nd round pick that year was Jalen Smith, who was coming off a major injury and it had 121 tackles last year and is developing into a star. And then they go out and get Amari Cooper last year in a trade for a 1st round pick. And so they've done some great things to build a top quality team with 9 Pro Bowlers on that roster. But what happens then, and I saw that here with the Vikings in '98 when we had 10 Pro Bowlers on that team, and how hard it was to make that fit salary cap wise, and in the following seasons. And then the next year I was in Tennessee and we had 6-7 Pro Bowlers in the same kind of situation, that it's really tough to maintain that. And that's the challenge for the Joneses, to how do you do that, especially when you get into a situation where they've already got a high-priced offensive line. They got 2 of the highest-paid offensive linemen in the league in Zach Martin and Tyron Smith. And then you look at DeMarcus Lawrence, a $21 million a year guy in the defensive line. And now you're looking at paying Prescott probably $30 million a year or so, because if you look at Cousins' deal and Jimmy Garoppolo,
and Carson Wentz, those are all in the $26 to $28 million a year range. Dak Prescott's done more than those guys and outperformed them. He's 32-16 as a starter with 2 division titles and 2 Pro Bowls, and also had a playoff win last year over Seattle. So, but I think the point is when that quarterback was cheap, and a 4th-round quarterback is really cheap. He made $630,000 last year. He's supposed to make $2 million this year, and he jumps to $30 million. Well, that's exactly what Seattle saw when Russell Wilson got his big deal, went from a 3rd-round pick rookie deal, and they had that fantastic defense built around that great team, Marshawn Lynch, running back. And then when Russell Wilson jumped to $22 million a year in 2015, and now he's $34 million a year, well, that changed the dynamics and that significantly. And the Seahawks lost a lot of those great defensive players, the Richard Shermans of the world and Michael Bennett's and so forth. And so that's the challenge for the Cowboys. How do you manage all that? How do you make it all fit together? How do you satisfy Ezekiel Elliott? He's got 2 years left on his deal, and they could franchise him after that. And they could also fine him for being out of camp. How do you handle that situation? He's obviously critical of their team, led the NFL in rushing, also has 77 catches. People don't realize he caught
a great receiver.
Had that many catches, too.
Yeah.
And that really separates him. Amari Cooper at least is making $13.9 million this year. They don't have to worry as much about him. They could franchise him next year if they want, but they're talking contract right now out in Oxnard, California about him. But Prescott's the guy that they really need to address first and foremost. He should be top priority as the quarterback. He deserves it. He's paid his dues, and I think he's the guy that they'll focus on first, get him done. And then if they have to wait out Ezekiel a little bit, and to me, I wouldn't worry about it that much if I'm in their situation, because I often talk about Robert Smith and how he would come to camp 10 days before the regular season, and it didn't bother me that he wasn't taking hits in training camp and he wasn't getting all that extra work, and because I knew he'd come in shape. Now, I'm not sure about Zeke, whether he's down in Cabo. I'm not sure that he's going to be working out as hard as Robert did.
Right.
And so that would be a concern on my part if I'm Jerry and Stephen Jones. But they definitely have challenges, and the window is now for them to try to win a Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl. They've been to a Super Bowl probably since you covered the team.
I know.
1995.
1995 is the last time.
Yeah, and that's a long time for that Dallas fan base, as you know well.
Oh, man, absolutely. All right, a couple more topics I want to get to. The Michael Thomas contract, immense contract. I would imagine that the Vikings feel very good that they have Thielen and Diggs already signed up.
Yes, yeah, a $20 million a year deal Michael Thomas gets with $61 million guaranteed, and surely Amari Cooper is looking at that one. I don't think he's quite in that class that Michael Thomas is in, but he now has gone over Odell Beckham as the highest paid receiver in the league. And yeah, as you said, I'm sure they're happy. The Vikings are happy. Diggs and Thielen are signed in that $15-16 million a year range. And so they don't have to worry about that situation. But the Thomas deal, definitely very big, very, very strong deal. But that's just the nature of contracts. The next guy up is going to step up and get the next deal. And so we'll see who comes up next. But yeah, I think Michael Thomas, obviously an excellent player, and doesn't hurt him to have Drew Brees throwing the ball either, and Sean Payton directing that offense in New Orleans. So that's definitely a great player.
Let's wrap up with another Vikings topic. Kevin Stefanski, the offensive coordinator, talking about Dalvin Cook the other day. And again, it's funny because you go through waves. For a long time, running backs were coveted. Then you went through kind of the analytics age where people try to make the argument that running backs are easily replaceable. You can find a good one in the 4th round. Why invest in them? But now you see, the Cowboys get Elliott, and he makes a huge difference. Saquon Barkley is about the only thing propping up the Giants franchise right now. And now you have the Vikings treating Dalvin Cook as if he's one of the keys of the season.
Yeah, and I think he is. I think there's no denying it that I like what I've seen from Alexander Mattison in camp. Yeah. I think he's going to be a good number 2 guy, as Latavius Murray was in the past. I don't think there's going to be any drop-off there. But Dalvin Cook, to me, is special. I think he's a unique player with speed and power and shiftiness and moves and catches the ball well and all the type of things that he can do offensively. And Stefanski, he didn't couch anything when he was talking about Dalvin Cook the other day. He said, the question was, is he good in the zone scheme that they're using? Well, Kevin said he's good in any scheme, and it's probably true. But maybe the zone scheme will fit him really well too with the mobile lineman because he is quick and can get outside. But one of the things that struck me was when Kevin Stefanski also talked about Dalvin Cook's leadership and the fact that maybe he's stepping up in that area too, and which is a good sign that he's doing that, and as a third-year player. And this is a big year for him, contract-wise potentially. He'll have one more year left on his deal. If he goes out and has a great season, perhaps he could be in line for a nice extension. And so I think there's a lot at stake for him, a lot at stake for this Vikings offense to keep him healthy and for him to be able to stay healthy and stay on the field and make a big impact, along with that offensive line opening some holes for him. And we know in the play action passing game that the Vikings want to use, because Cousins is effective in that type of scheme, you got to be able to run the ball. And so if Dalvin Cook is really efficient and plays great, and going back to his rookie season, before he tore his ACL, he was the third-ranked rusher in the NFL through the first 4 games. And so we've seen what he can do. Last year they were kind of careful with him and never had a game, I think, where he had more than, 12 carries or something. But I think he's ready to step up his role, and he's made that clear, and I think Stefanski's made that clear. So it will be really interesting to watch him this year. I think he could be really a special player. And a 2,000-yard back potentially. Yeah,
absolutely. Good stuff from Jeff as always. We'll be back every week to update you on the Vikings and the NFL. Check out Jeff's work at Sporting News, sportingnews.com, his NFL column, and we're going to let Jeff wrap up the show here.
Yeah, just one final thought. Hall of Fame weekend, always a fun time. I had the privilege of going several times for Viking people, Randall McDaniel, Chris Dolman, a whole bunch of guys that went, Chris Carter, over the years, and John Randall, and so just I loved Hall of Fame weekend. Loved visiting Canton, and this class this year, great group of players and execs, and including Pat Bowen, the Broncos owner, who unfortunately passed away in June before he had this opportunity and was suffering from Alzheimer's, but also Gil Brandt, former Cowboy scout, super scout, but a nice class: Champ Bailey, Tony Gonzalez, Ty Law, Kevin Mawai, Ed Reed, Johnny Robinson, going back to the throwback years. And so congrats to that group, and it'll be fun to tune in for that Hall of Fame ceremony.
Did you know Gil well?
I knew him a little bit, didn't know him real well, but always was a pleasant guy whenever I talked with him, and I'm sure you knew him much better.
I didn't know him real well because I only covered the Cowboys for 1 year, and it was the year they were cleaning house, but I have a lot of friends who he's treated very well over the years.
Yeah. So congrats to all those guys, and should be an interesting Hall of Fame weekend.
Absolutely. Thanks again to Jeff. Thanks to everyone who listens. Thanks to WhiteBearLeagueSuperstore.com, and we'll talk to you next week.